The courtroom was under immense pressure from the media and public outrage. A young black man stood accused of raping a white woman. But as the defense attorney examined the evidence, she noticed inconsistencies. Meanwhile, the judge struggled to maintain fairness amid society's relentless demands for justice.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a monster in this courtroom. This man destroyed a young woman's life, and now he dares to claim he's innocent.
I didn't do it. I don't even know her. They're lying about me.
Your Honor, we have evidence that proves my client's innocence, but it seems like no one here wants to hear the truth.
I demand order in this courtroom. Defense, be mindful of your claims.
Tension in the courtroom was rising. The prosecutor played every card to convince the jury of the defendant's guilt. The media had already made up its mind. He was guilty. But deep inside, attorney Maya Johnson's doubts were growing. Was the defendant really guilty? Or was this trial just a public execution, shaped by media influence and social hysteria? While examining the evidence, Maya noticed something unsettling. The alleged victim's statement kept changing, and crucial security footage was missing. But the prosecutor had already swayed the jury. Meanwhile, the judge struggled to withstand the growing pressure.
Your Honor, we cannot ignore the inconsistencies in the victim's statement. In her first report, she claimed the attacker was 6 feet 3 inches, but my client is 5 feet 9 inches. How do you explain that?
Ever heard of post-traumatic shock, Attorney Johnson? Victims often struggle to recall exact details after experiencing such a horrifying ordeal.
And what about the DNA found at the crime scene? It does not match my client. How do you justify that?
Perhaps he wore gloves during the attack, or maybe the evidence was compromised over time.
Maya had uncovered major inconsistencies in the evidence, but the prosecutor was relentless in swaying the jury with emotion rather than facts. Was this an honest mistake, or was the entire case fabricated from the start? The courtroom bore witness to a trial unlike any other in history. Seated at the defendant's table, Jamal couldn't take his eyes off his attorney, Maya Johnson. His gaze flickered between hope and fear. Perhaps for the first time in this entire ordeal, he saw a glimmer of light. The prosecutor, however, still wore a smug look of victory. He believed the evidence in his hands was indisputable, but Maya wasn't convinced. The deeper she dug, the more her suspicions grew. This case reeked of corruption from the start. Fabricated evidence, inconsistent testimonies, and a carefully orchestrated media campaign. And now, one man had the power to expose it all. But that man had vanished.
Mr. Prosecutor, I have critical information. The officer who collected the evidence at the crime scene, the man whose signature is on the report, has disappeared.
The prosecutor shook his head, trying to appear unfazed, but his voice lacked its usual confidence.
Attorney Johnson, is it a crime for someone to take a vacation now? People get sick, take leave, or travel out of town. And here you are, spinning it into some grand conspiracy.
Maya narrowed her eyes. She could see it. He was hiding something.
Oh, really, Mr. Prosecutor? Then tell me this. Why did this officer report to his superiors that some of the evidence in this case was fabricated before he went missing?
The room fell into a heavy silence. The jury straightened in their seats. Spectators held their breath. Even Judge Holloway leaned forward slightly in his chair. The prosecutor blinked rapidly. He was clearly calculating his next move, but he had to act fast.
This is absurd, baseless rumors and speculation. You have no proof.
Maya smirked. She could see the cracks forming.
This isn't a rumor, Mr. Prosecutor. These are the officer's last written notes. Read them carefully.
She handed the file to the jury. They leaned in, eyes scanning the pages.
It states, and I quote, "There was tampering with the fingerprints at the crime scene. Evidence was planted. If this is true, someone must stop it. If not, an innocent man will be convicted."
The courtroom froze. The prosecutor's eyes widened in shock. The jury, still reading, whispered amongst themselves.
This courtroom will remain in order. Attorney Johnson, if what you claim is true, you need more than just a document. Do you have any supporting evidence?
Maya took a deep breath and reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small recording device.
Your Honor, I am submitting this as evidence. This is the last audio recording sent to me by the missing officer. Before disappearing, he wanted me to make sure the truth was heard in this courtroom.
Every eye in the room locked onto the tiny recorder in Maya's hand. She pressed play, and the voice that filled the courtroom shook everyone to their core.
The evidence was altered. The reports are fake. The defendant might be innocent, but if I speak up, I don't know what will happen to me. If you're hearing this, it means they've silenced me.
For a moment, the courtroom was utterly still. Then, chaos erupted. Journalists frantically scribbled notes. The jury exchanged shocked glances. The tension in the room reached its breaking point. Jamal's eyes widened. He took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling rapidly, but words failed him. The prosecutor wiped sweat from his forehead, but there was nowhere left to run.
This is unbelievable. Mr. Prosecutor, do you have an explanation?
The prosecutor glared at Maya, his face pale. His voice wavered.
This could be a coincidence. Maybe the officer misunderstood something. Shouldn't we consider the possibility that he was mistaken?
Maya clenched the recorder in her palm and took a step closer to the jury.
A misunderstanding? Someone explain this to me. Fake evidence was planted, a key witness has vanished, and we're supposed to believe it's all just a coincidence?
Judge Holloway exhaled heavily, staring at the floor. It was now clear. This case wasn't just flawed. It was rigged. And now, the truth rested on Maya's next move. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension, suffocating every breath and weighing down every word. Judge Holloway leaned slightly forward in his chair, his fingers wrapped tightly around the gavel. He had presided over hundreds of cases in his lifetime. But this was different. This wasn't just about one man's freedom. This was a test of whether the justice system truly served justice. Jamal Harris was still sitting in the defendant's chair, but the fear in his eyes had been replaced by something else. Hope. Because Maya Johnson was never going to stop fighting for the truth.
This case is not just about Jamal Harris's freedom. This case is about whether or not our justice system truly stands for justice. If we ignore the blatant falsehoods in this trial today, who's to say it won't be one of us tomorrow?
The jury members leaned forward. The murmurs in the audience grew louder. Judge Holloway studied Maya carefully, but she wasn't done yet.
And now, I stand before this court to reveal the real criminal.
Attorney Johnson, you speak of revealing the true culprit, yet you still haven't disproven the overwhelming evidence against your client.
Am I wrong? Or are you deliberately ignoring the facts, Mr. Prosecutor?
The prosecutor leaned back slightly in his chair. This woman was dangerous.
Attorney Johnson, if you have new evidence to present, do it now.
Maya straightened her posture. She lifted the documents in her hand once again and took a step closer to the jury.
Then let me be clear. The real culprit is sitting in this courtroom.
A collective gasp echoed through the room. The journalists frantically scribbled in their notebooks. The prosecutor's eyes widened in shock. Even Judge Holloway slightly recoiled.
Speak plainly, Attorney Johnson.
The victim's ex-boyfriend. He was at her home that night, and there's a witness who can prove it.
The courtroom was seconds away from erupting. The jury members exchanged stunned glances. The prosecutor clenched his jaw, his gaze burning into Maya.
This is ridiculous. If such a witness exists, why haven't they come forward before now?
Maya let out a small smirk. It was time to play her trump card.
Because they were afraid, but they are afraid no longer, because today, they are here, ready to testify in front of this court.
The tension reached a breaking point. Judge Holloway slammed his gavel down.
This court will hear the testimony of this witness immediately.
Jamal Harris's eyes locked onto Maya. Was the witness really here? And if so, would justice finally be served? Finally. The moment of truth had arrived. The courtroom was silent. Every eye was locked onto Judge Holloway, who sat behind his massive wooden bench, his fingers wrapped tightly around the gavel. The weight of the moment pressed against his chest. He had spent his entire career upholding the law, but today, he had to uphold justice. Maya Johnson stood tall, her breath steady. She had fought tooth and nail to expose the lies woven into this case. But would the jury see the truth? Jamal Harris clenched his fists, waiting to hear the words that would either set him free or destroy him forever.
Jury, have you reached a verdict?
The jury foreperson slowly rose, holding a folded sheet of paper. The air was thick, every second dragging like an eternity.
We have, Your Honor.
Judge Holloway gave a slow nod and gestured for the verdict to be read aloud.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
For a single moment, the world stood still. And then, the courtroom exploded. The audience gasped. Reporters frantically scribbled on their notepads. Juries exchanged glances of relief. Even some members of the public clapped, despite the strict courtroom decorum. Jamal exhaled sharply, his shoulders shaking. He was free.
Thank you for believing in me.
This isn't over. We will appeal.
You do that, and I will still be here fighting for the truth.
Judge Holloway banged his gavel.
This court is adjourned.
And just like that, it was over. But Maya knew something the others didn't. This case might be closed, but the fight for true justice, it had only just begun. The end, or just the beginning?